I change clothes, brush my teeth, wash my face. Lord, we gonna talk. We gonna relax for a minute, wait for it to warm up, because it's still 50 degrees outside. I can't get in that building with it this cold. Sorry, I gotta pick my tits up. Ah! I am gonna maybe put on a face while we talk about this. If I can find my makeup bag. Oh hell, here we go. I feel like it was in the floor. Nope. Damn. Where the fuck did it go? Wait till y'all hear this, doctor. First of all, we probably need to start with who the fuck these people are, because I'm gonna show y'all this video. We're gonna watch a video together. This was first of all, let me figure out how to pause it. This was a doctor that came out. When I try to figure out where this is, it doesn't tell me where this was. I'll show you the page so you can go see it and find it for yourself later on if you want to watch the full thing, if you want to do any kind of digging. This is the channel. It's called Drika Moda, DYI. This is the doctor. Hello, hello. And you guys, essentially, she's been in the medical field for 45 years. She has worked extensively in pediatrics, children, youth. She's not only just a doctor, she's a clinical, first of all, I asked, what city is this? Where was this? And no one replied. Of course, nobody fucking knows, Brooke. Now, I watched this, and I really didn't know what I was watching until she started name dropping other doctors. Then I started looking into those other doctors, and it just so happens that I was right. Transgenderism has been around for centuries, decades, okay? They have been doing psychological research on transgenderism for decades, and there's specific doctors that have been in the field for over 40 years that have specifically dealt with transgenderism and the medical psychological aspects of what that is. It is a psychological disorder. Hold on one second. It's a psychological disorder. And the thing that works is therapy. This transgenderism with the sex changes and the hormones and the chemicals and the sterilization of youth is only a new thing. This doctor is going to talk about this. I'm trying to figure out what her name is. Hold on one second. Because she's phenomenal and it doesn't tell me anything. Everything she's about to say is backed by science. And I looked up these other doctors, and one of them, it was crazy. One of them, hold on. I looked up two of them, actually. And both of them have spoke out against giving children hormones, treatment, and stuff like that. And they've been silenced because of it. I'm just going to let her do the talking. I need to find my makeup bag. Dr. Mamara is going to be the doctor that is for transgenderism. And let me just show you. Hold on. Mamara. Y'all, this woman has been on the forefront. Or this person. Dr. Mac. Why is it not coming up? Come on, you piece of crap. My Wi-Fi is being slow. So I was right. It is a female. Her name is Dr. Meredith McNamara. She is a gender transition specialist. I just want to be clear that these other doctors that are good doctors, this is not a good doctor. This is a doctor after money. This is a doctor cashing in on a $2 billion, $3 billion industry. This is an evil woman who has took very sick patients and has twisted the medical field to profit off of people that are suffering psychologically from a disorder that we've known about for fucking centuries, that we have science that we already figured out. We knew what worked for the trans population. We knew what helped them. And it wasn't giving them hormones and cutting their tits off. Quite the opposite. It was therapy, maybe medication, maybe not floating down the fucking Nile River. We're going to get into it. I just want to be clear that this woman is evil. The doctors that have researched transgenderism, that have come up with proven remedies for this mental condition, they have been silenced. But these doctors were alive long before McNamara was ever even a thing, honey. These doctors were helping people decades before this bitch was even born. I don't know who gave this hoe a platform, but this is exactly how people get in positions of power that they do not deserve. This doctor is evil. Evil. Do you hear me? Imagine giving a 10-year-old hormones. Imagine putting a 6-year-old in a dress and trying to convince that 6-year-old that they're a girl when they're actually physically a boy. This is what we have going on, and it's not going away anytime soon. And I wonder how many hundreds of thousands of millions of people are going to be victimized before we come back down to fucking reality. Or are we just going to allow this to happen? Are we just going to allow the sterilization of our youth, which essentially could lead to extinction? It might take a couple hundred years, but who's to say what could happen? We are so far off track from normal, honey. There might not be coming back from this. We might be screwed for life. I'm going to let this doctor talk. I can't find her damn name. She starts with, she's been in the medical profession for over 45 years. I'm just going to let her talk. I'm going to do my makeup.
For 45 years. I'm going to use my time to respond to Dr. McNamara. First, I'm struck by her use of the phrase, sex assigned at birth. Sex is not assigned at birth. Sex is established at conception, and it's recognized at birth, if not earlier. Dr. McNamara claims that her views are science-based, but to claim that sex is assigned at birth is without any scientific basis whatsoever. Its language misleads people, especially children, into thinking that male and female are arbitrary designations and can change. That is simply not true. Dr. McNamara claims that social and medical interventions are the only evidence-based treatment and that scientific evidence shows it is life-saving. Without it, she's warning us, kids will commit suicide. Well, a growing number of countries have effectively banned the care to which she's referring. And thank God there's been no wave of suicides or other mental health catastrophes. 3 years ago, Finland placed strict limitations on medical interventions for minors. Sweden did the same thing after a 14-year-old girl was found to have osteoporosis and spinal fractures from puberty blockers. An investigation concluded, quote, the risks of anti-puberty and hormone treatment for those under 18 currently outweigh the possible benefits. The UK conducted a review and called the evidence very low. They've also placed severe restrictions on the care that Dr. McNamara calls life-saving. Norway also analyzed the data and has made similar changes in policy. The National Academy of Medicine in France warned, quote, great medical caution must be taken in children and adolescents, given the vulnerability of this population and the many undesirable, even serious complications the therapies cause. Doctors in New Zealand and Australia have published similar statements.
Unbelievable.
Is Dr. McNamara suggesting that all these countries are rejecting evidence-based treatment and placing their kids at risk of suicide? Regarding that point of view, Finland's gender expert, Dr. Rita Kaltiela, said, quote, "It's purposeful disinformation, the spreading of which is irresponsible."
Whew.
All 7 countries, and Florida too, of course, concluded that kids don't need their development interrupted, the girls don't need their periods stopped and their voices lowered, and the boys don't need to grow breasts.
Thank you.
What they need is psychotherapy.
Thank you.
I have other objections to Dr. McNamara's testimony. She insists that her position, only hers, represents standard medical care. What she doesn't want you to know is that there is no standard.
Amen.
There's a debate. There's a fierce debate. And on the side opposite her stand such prominent figures as Stephen Levine, Kenneth Zucker, Paul McHugh, and James Cantor.
Real doctors.
These doctors are giants in the field.
Thank you.
They have been treating transgender patients and gathering data and publishing papers about them, and I mean no disrespect here, but since before Dr. McNamara was born.
Hey.
The point is that those veteran clinicians and others who have wisdom and experience are ignored because they disagree with the current narrative. They're against medical interventions for the same reason those 7 countries are. There is no evidence of long-term benefit, but there is evidence of harm.
Oh, hold on. What'd she say? What'd she say?
Jamie Reed, the courageous whistleblower from the Children's Gender Clinic in St. Louis, I believe that that hospital receives the medical education funding that we're discussing today. She said that doctors at that clinic said, "We are building the plane while we are flying it."
Whew.
We are building the plane while we are flying it. That's how they described the treatment at their gender clinic. Our precious tax dollars should not support such a perilous experiment.
Amen.
Thank you.
Tell me a journal that has done
What'd I
systematic
say?
reviews that
Fucking
says different
experiment. That's what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. We don't know the long-term effects of, psychologically speaking, what these people are going to be in 30 years. Y'all, we are going to look back on this time, and it is going to be the same thing as the insane asylums when they were locking people up and turning them into fucking guinea pigs. This is crazy. This is medical malpractice in a nutshell.
to cite strong evidence for benefits of these therapies.
The standards of care were developed based on extensive.
You're not telling me any journal, you're not telling me any study. Don't say
That's not
standards
what
of care.
Yeah. So,
Tell me one.
the standards of care.
That's the standards of care.
Yes,
That's
standards of
not
care.
a journal, that's not a study. That's not an organization, that's not an institution. You're just saying words.
Thank you.
So let's shift focus to the giant elephant in the room. And this is the reauthorization for the Children's Hospital's GME funding. And yes, it's true, this is my bill. And what it does is it withholds funding from these hospitals if they engage in what they call gender affirmation therapy, these physical changes to a child's physiology, permanently disfiguring them through either puberty blockers or even surgical modifications. Now, look, I understand that the other side of the argument here believes they are on the side of compassion, and maybe that's a sincerely held belief. It is just as true that I believe we are on the side of compassion. I think it is indeed compassionate to stop kids from being permanently physically altered based on little to no evidence that it will improve their underlying mental condition.
Thank you.
And why is this controversial? That's actually beyond me. Not too long ago, I think we all agreed that performing double mastectomies on a 12-year-old girl was wrong.
Right?
Now it's become a political movement where radical activists have bullied mainstream medical associations and members of Congress into repeating this propaganda. Now, it should be noted that in the public, this subject is actually not very controversial. In fact, a recent poll just last month by the Washington Post showed that 68% of Americans opposed using puberty blockers on children. That's just a question about puberty blockers. Imagine if the question had been about castration or surgical interventions. So you've got to convince me that 70% of Americans
Wrong.
are just a bunch of fools that refuse to accept the so-called science. Or maybe, like, I have another theory. Maybe they have a very baseline understanding of ethics and common sense, which tells us that maybe, just maybe, It's a bad idea to submit children to permanent life-altering medical interventions based solely on a temporary ideation about their gender.
Thank you.
Gender affirmation is not science, and there's no evidence-based standard of care. To say that is a lie, or is at best redefining the term evidence-based.
That part.
What this is a social contagion. It is based in pseudoscience and radical ideologies. And it's sweeping across our country and encouraging children to make irreversible changes to their
Ooh,
gender.
y'all.
What's worse, it's coming from adults and institutions who know better,
Sick.
to include our children's hospitals.
This is
Institutions
abuse.
that are supposed
This is real
to
child
be
abuse. That's what child
tethered
abuse
to
is.
sound science and their Hippocratic
Being
oath to the
brainwashed from an early age, being convinced that you're somebody else, being forced to take fucking puberty blockers just to be cool, be part of the cool crowd. It's sick and it's abuse, plain and simple. And it's all about money. Let's talk about how much money. Let's talk about how much money. So that's the medical information that you need to know. There's no evidence to support transgenderism. There's no medical scientific evidence to support that it helps these patients that are suffering from a psychological issue, which is transgenderism. It's a mental disorder. It's like bipolar disorder or anxiety or schizophrenia. It's out of their control. They don't feel normal in their own bodies. There's body dysmorphia. Let's see how many different forms. I have to say it a certain way so Google don't give me some bullshit. Body dysmorphia and transgender psychological. Oh, shit. My Bluetooth's hooked up. Why do I always do that? I hate it. Hate it. These doctors, and I went and looked up these doctors that lady spit out. These doctors have been working. Stephen Levine, he's a trans doctor. And if you go to his Wikipedia page, he does not support. He's been in the medical field. He was born in 1942. This doctor has been alive way longer than McNamara. They know what works. They've helped hundreds of thousands of people live with body dysmorphia and gender dysmorphia. Let me just read it. Stephen Barrett Levine, born 1942, an American psychiatrist known for advocating the fringe view that gender dysmorphia and being transgender are often caused by psychological issues that should be treated psychoanalytically as opposed to with gender-affirming care. He co-founded the Case Warren Reserve University School of Medicine in 1974. He was the World Professional Association for Transgender Health CEO. What else? This man's been all over the fucking place. 98, he published some books. He helped with the DSM in 94. Subcommittee on the gender identity disorder. This man has been working with transgender patients who are suffering from body dysmorphia, gender dysmorphia for decades. He has since distanced himself from these organizations, arguing that they are more concentrated with civil rights than evidence, and too receptive to the transgender community. Since 2006, he's worked with the U.S. state prisons to deny transgender inmates medical and social transitions. So he's out here fighting the good fight, trying to prevent people from harming themselves. And he's been doing it for decades. He's been helping people for decades. He also has multiple clinics. One is out of Cleveland. It's a sexual dysfunction clinic. In 93, he had never mind. That was when he worked at a different hospital. He has written on sex offenders, including professionals who offend. He does studies to define the subtypes of child molester to help devise a means of prevention. These are the real doctors. I just want to be clear. These are real medical professionals, not McNamara, whoever that stupid bitch is. Levine has written about adultery, infidelity, and believes blah, 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 blah. He believes in addressing cheating and infidelity to prevent, these issues. He's done a lot of stuff when it comes to gender identity disorders, treatments of psychiatric disorders. So get this. So it looks like he switched sides. Listen to this. In 1974, he created the Case Western Gender Identity Clinic to treat transgender people, which recommended surgery for only 10% of patients. Now, that 10% is going to be people that want to and need to medically transition. And he became an influential figure in trans health care in the 70s and 80s. His approach emphasized psychoanalytic treatment for transgender people as opposed to medical interventions. Oh, so he didn't switch sides. He's always been on the right side. He's always thought that addressing it with therapy, maybe some medication, a lot of truth was the way to go. Going at this as a mental disorder, not going at this as we need to change you because you were born in the wrong fucking body. That is absurd. But y'all call me crazy. So he says he has argued that transgender people are commonly pathological, narcissistic. Whoa, what? Woo! I think he's a lot smarter than people have given him credit for. No way. It says he's argued that transgender people are commonly pathologically narcissistic. Is it a trans problem or is it a narcissistic problem? Interesting. I could see that. In the 1990s, scientific consensus on transgender healthcare began to diverge from psychoanalytic theories as gender-affirming medical care was seen as a more effective than therapy for treating gender dysmorphia. Now, we just heard a doctor talk, and 4 other doctors agree with her. And also other countries who have banned, 7 countries have banned transgender affirming care. Let's be clear. Australia, New Zealand, they don't allow this shit. They said this is detrimental. And all of the doctors that have been silenced agree that we had a program that worked for these people. And it says here in the 90s, they diverted from the original plan. And it tells us, gender-affirming medical care was seen as a more effective than therapy. I wonder why that is. I'm going to tell you why. Money. Money. They realized that they could profit. And they did. And that is why McNamara is in her position. This is crazy. This doctor is great. Love this. Love this. I don't know how I even ran across that whole thing, but it's awesome. Hold on one second. So there's another one, James Canters. He is a transgender doctor, and he's American-Canadian clinical psychologist like Jordan Peterson. What did they try to do to Jordan when he said that boys were boys and girls were girls? They tried to fucking take his license. Remember that? So let's read about this guy. James M. Cantor is an American-Canadian clinical psychologist and sexologist specializing in hypersexuality and paraphernalias. It's, like, I can't say it, y'all. Kind of like, shit, how do you say that? It's like a sexual addiction, okay? P-A-R-A-P-H, paraphilia? It's not, anyways. He's a psychologist, a former senior scientist at the Center for Addiction and Mental Health in Toronto. He was an editor of sexual abuse in a journal for like 4 years. His research on brain differences and pedophiles has been cited as evidence that pedophilia is something unchangeable and that people are probably born with it. Hello! Why are all the good doctors being shoved under the fucking rugs? Ugh. This guy. Hello, sir. So let's see what he's done on So after completing his PhD, he worked in a psychiatric hospital that contained a sexual behavior clinic and polyometric laboratory to assist men for pedophilia. In 98, he began a postdoctoral training at CAMH as an intern at Ray Blanchard. He went on to become a senior scientist at CAMH and an associate professor at the University of Toronto's Department of Psychiatry. From 2010 to 2004, he was editor-in-chief of the journal Sexual Abuse. So, okay, here we go. So, between 2018 and 2020, he was described by the Southern Poverty Law Center as helping, quote, generate pseudo-scientific support for denying gender-affirming care. So this looks like when Cantor entered into getting into the LGBTQ plus transgender mental health issues. It looks like 2018, which was right before all of this shit started. If you guys remember, it started during COVID. 2020 was when shit got crazy. It says in August of 2020, Cantor left the Society of Scientific Study of Sexuality, the SSSS, after conflicts with other members over transgender issues. He's being pushed out because he knows the truth and he refuses to lay over and take it. According to an article in the National Post, this occurred after Cantor was temporarily banned from an alleged pattern of bullying behavior. What'd I tell you? When you won't conform, when they find out that you ain't like them and you don't want to do drugs and alcohol, honey, they gonna bully you till you fucking leave. In an essay written to the organization, Cantor referenced J.K. Rowling's views on transgender topics. Cantor also resigned from the editorial position for the SSSS Journal of Sex Research. The Pink News article covering events noted Cantor's support of LGB Alliance, often considered a transphobic or trans-exclusionary organization. As of January of 21, he sits on the editorial some fucking editorial board, y'all, of the Journal of Sexual Aggression and Archives of Sexual Behavior. So in the late 80s and early 90s, he published a series of papers advancing Blanchard's transsexualism typology. Oh my God. He also authored a series of papers and editorials with Kenneth Zucker. That's the other doctor. In 2023, the Southern Poverty Law Center described him as an old guard and anti-trans sexology researcher centered around the CAMH, who advocated treating transgender identities as a medical illness and promoted conversion therapy style cures. So what I'm getting is that these doctors that were brought up in this press conference, they actually had been out here helping people for years. They had programs that worked, therapy that worked, and they have a long history of mental health, down to sex addiction, down to pedophiles. Like, these are experienced professionals. They've seen it all. And they had a system, and they did papers and studies, and they said this is what works. And at no point in time was gender-affirming care on that list. And it seems like in 2018, he was essentially pushed out because they labeled him transphobic. Imagine that. It's just crazy. So it says using... Oh, that's talking about pedophiles. So those are two of the doctors that was brought up. And as you can see, they have papers going back to the 80s where they were talking about transgenderism. They were doing studies back then. Like I said, I assumed. And it's only been since this one doctor, this McNamara, since she's come out, this has gotten huge. Let's see, how much money are they making off this? So first of all, I Googled how much money is the trans medical field worth, and it didn't give me a direct answer, but I just want to be clear that it says right here the cost of medical treatments for gender dysmorphia can cost more than $100,000 and often are not covered by insurance. So there's your answer why the train is off the tracks, honey. $100,000. Not covered by insurance. Transitioning from male to female can cost an estimated $140,000. And transitioning from female to male can cost an estimated $124,000. A study found providing health care for transgender people costs between $34,000 and $43,000 a year per year for the first 5 years. After 10 years, the cost drops to between $7,000 and $10,000 per year for quality of life. It makes my blood boil. So I got an article from Yahoo Finance. Let's see what this says. I was supposed to be doing makeup. Now I don't even feel like it. It's what coming off Suboxone is like. Sex reassignment surgery. Market worth more than $6.2 billion by 2030. The global sex reassignment surgery market is growing at a large pace of CAGR of 10.1% from 22 to 23. More than 50,000 people had at least one gender-affirming surgery during 2016 to 2019. This primarily included breast or chest procedures, often called top surgery, which made up more than 56% of surgeries. Women cutting their tits off. People who had genital reconstructive procedures called bottom surgeries made up over 35% of procedures. And I just want to be clear that that starts at around $70,000. And it will never be like a woman's vagina. And matter of fact, there's more scientific evidence that it's harmful than beneficial. It's not beneficial at all. It's nothing like a regular vagina. It will never be a regular vagina. And matter of fact, you have a higher chance of death with that hole. And that's the truth. So it says the number of gender-affirming surgeries rose from 4,500 in 2016 to 13,000 in 2019. And it says the pandemic, the number slightly dropped in 2020. This number has been rising since the second quarter of 22. What did I tell y'all? The number of medical appointments related to sex reassignment surgeries risen from 14,000 in 2016 to 40,000 in 2020. So it says, according to our new research study on sex reassignment surgery, forecasting to 2030, global analytics, I think that's how you say it, by surgery type, end user, and geography, the market is estimated to grow from $2.90 billion in 22 to $6.26 billion by 2030. That's a 10% increase in less than 8 years. Well, there's your motive, folks. There's your motive. I mean, I do believe that that's one of the most expensive surgeries that you can get. What are the chances that they come up with a whole medical, psychological, oh, we can fix this like this, when we already had it fixed? It's just about money. Oh, hold on a second. I forget my freaking Bluetooth is hooked up. Let's look up bottom surgery. Is bottom surgery So it says the cost of gender affirming surgery can range from $6,900 to $63,000 depending on the procedure. Bottom surgery typically costs between $6 and $25,000. That's a lie. It starts at 60 grand. And now I've seen people talk about this and how much they paid. and it's called vaginoplasty. Vagina. Hold on one second. Vaginoplasty, paleoplasty, metodioplasty. Jesus, I don't know. Oh, God. So, vaginoplasty starts at 10 and goes up to 30. Listening, 6 to 30,000, and then the paloplasty is 20 to 50 and can go as high as $150,000. Sickening. It's just so sad. There we go. So this Kenneth Zucker was another doctor that was mentioned in the video that we watched. He is actually an American-Canadian psychologist and sexologist known, known for living in your own skin model, a form of conversion therapy aimed at preventing pubertal children from growing up transgender by modifying their gender identity and expression. Now, this was a doctor who worked extensively with children who suffer from body dysmorphia, gender dysmorphia, and things like that. And he was a psychologist in chief at Toronto Center for Addiction and Mental Health Services. Now, and he was a head of its gender identity services until December of 2015. Now, it says, citing a review by 2 adolescent psychologists stating that CAMH, that's that program that the other doctors were a part of, was out of step with current practices for transgender youth. They fired Zucker and closed the clinic in 2015. They later apologized to Zucker and paid him a financial settlement after one of the complaints in the review was found to be false. Zucker was a professor in the Department of Psychiatry and Psychology at the University of Toronto. This is another man who spoke out about gender-affirming care, who had been in the profession. He was born in 1950, okay, to Jewish parents, grew up in Illinois, received his bachelor's from Southern Illinois University back when they actually taught things in school. And he graduated in 82. He holds a BA from the College of Psychologist of Ontario. He became interested in gender identity after reading Richard Green's 74 Sexual Identity Conflict in Children and Adults. Zucker's graduate work in developmental psychology resulted in his master's thesis on normative gender identity development in children. I'm literally like covered in chills right now. This man has dedicated his entire career to helping children. Psychologically, they knew what was going on. They had remedies, therapy. It says, is that her? Is that her? Was that Susan Bradley? Come on, give me a picture. Is that the woman that was talking? Y'all, I think that woman's name is Susan Bradley. I'm pretty sure that woman that we saw talk was Susan Bradley. Doctor. She's a Canadian psychiatrist. Is that her? What the freak? Oh no, that lady's way older. So anyways, he had a lady that worked with him to develop these treatments for children. Developmental psychology. It says, So he's worked with children addressing their gender identity problems since the 80s. And at no point in time. So it says, Zucker collaborated with Susan Bradley, collecting clinical research data over a period of 20 years and became an authority on gender dysmorphia in children and adolescents. And this doctor was pushed out because of some crazy bitch that come up with some fake remedies to make money off of. I mean, it's just crazy to see this and see how it happened. Because looking at their career, reading their Wikipedia page tells me all I need to know. And usually Wikipedia lies, so it's interesting that you can still form a picture with what information you have here. Every single doctor that was listed in that press conference, whatever that was, I can't even find out where that was, who that was. She knows her shit. They've had study after study after this Zucker and Susan Bradley. They've done studies on homosexuality, transsexualism, therapeutic homosexuality. Like, they've done everything, you guys. These are real doctors that didn't make any money. You know, they're not out here trying to make money. They were out here trying to help people. And they were pushed out of their position because they wouldn't conform to what society wanted to go with at the time, the narrative. So it says in January of 2015, Zucker was he was a chief at Toronto Centre for Addiction and Mental Health Services and head of its gender identity services. Rainbow Health. Get this shit. Of course they're called Rainbow Health. Rainbow Health Ontario submitted a review of academic literature and clinical practices for transgender youth and expressed concern that the gender identity clinic was not following accepted practices and would be in violation of the upcoming ban on conversion therapy in Ontario. So because you're not willing to give gender affirming care, we're going to shut you the fuck down. Crazy. It's just crazy. I was trying to see if there was a number on what they're expected the trans community to grow between now and 2030, but it doesn't give me an exact figure. Here we go. Here we go. Health.gov, LGBTQ. It doesn't tell me. Damn it. I want to know how many people are going to be affected by this shit. My Wi-Fi's being slow. Sorry. I've really got to clean this building out today. So let's talk about what conversion therapy is. Now this is coming from Wikipedia, so y'all already know which way they lean. I want to be clear that conversion therapy worked for decades before this McNamara doctor come out and said that it didn't work. It worked. Conversion therapy is the pseudo-scientific practice of attempting to change an individual's sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression to align with a heterosexual and I'm not even going to say that word, with a heterosexual way of life. Methods have been used to end this form. It says methods that have been used to end includes forms of brain surgery, surgical. No, we're talking about talk therapy. When I say conversion therapy, I'm talking about talk therapy. They are two different fucking things, and this is the problem. They have turned something into something that it's not. This says forms of brain surgery, surgical and hormonal castration, such as electric shock, nausea, inducing drugs, hypnosis, counseling, and spiritual interventions. Number one, at no point should anyone be exposed to electric shock therapy, nausea-inducing drugs. I agree with that. But hypnosis, counseling, spiritual interventions, visualization, talk therapy, arousal reconditioning, these things work. Half of them work, half of them don't. That's the problem when you just lump things together and call it conversion therapy. There's so many layers to that onion. There is about 12 different kinds of conversion therapies that you can roll together to do different things. I do not agree with brain surgery. I do not agree with surgical or hormonal castration. But I absolutely agree with hypnosis, counseling, spiritual interventions, visualization, all of these other things that we know worked for decades. Historically, conversion therapy was the treatment of choice for individuals who disclosed same-sex attractions or exhibited gender non-conformity, which were formerly assumed to be pathologies by the medical establishment. And it's a mental disorder. Body dysmorphia, gender dysmorphia, it's a mental disorder. And it usually stems from trauma. Fun facts. When performed today, conversion therapy may constitute fraud. And when performed on minors, a form of child abuse. This is crazy. So, giving a child some fucking therapy is more abusive than letting them cut their penis off? Let me get this fucking right. Because people call me crazy, and maybe I'm just not understanding. Because I just feel like therapy is a lot better and safer than allowing a child to castrate themselves. What's really child abuse? Let's not be naive. This is why I hate Wikipedia. Because they are bought and paid for, honey. It says it has been described by experts as torture, cruel, inhumane. Hold on, wait a minute. Are we talking about conversion therapy, or are we talking about gender reassignment surgery, honey? Because I just feel like cutting your tits off at 16, 17 years old is torture, cruel, and inhumane. I could be fucking wrong. What do I fucking know? It's just crazy how they write shit. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Conversion therapy helps. It worked. Maybe not all forms, but once again, it's an onion with many layers. Every case is different. People are like, oh, it's so bad. No, bitch. Just because you can't address your fucking issues doesn't mean that this person doesn't need to. Just because you wake up and look in the mirror and lie to your motherfucking self every day doesn't mean that this person doesn't deserve the right to sit down and talk to somebody, because that's what they need. That's what they need. Some people need that. So just because you're against therapy doesn't mean that it doesn't work, because it does. And not all forms of conversion therapy are bad. Some of them absolutely. When you're talking about electric shock and brain surgery and whoa, hello, we've crossed the line. But when it comes to talk therapy, medications, visualization, hypnosis, things that we know have worked for certain people, different strokes for different folks, okay? And sometimes it takes a few times. I went through therapy as a child. It never really helped until I got to high school and I started utilizing it the way that I was supposed to. But it took trial and error for me to get there. And these victims, they need intensive therapy. They need to figure out who they are before they start cutting on their fucking bodies. Plain and simple. It's like, when did we become so ass backwards? Like, it's like going to rehab and they're trying to address your underlying mental health conditions and you haven't even gotten over the withdrawals. Why are we starting with this when we need to start with therapy and we need to start with the root cause? Where is this coming from, first of all? And then we can address it later on down the line with medications, hormones, maybe sex changes when you're 20. We put the cart before the, we put the cart before the horse. And it's about money. Conversion therapy works, certain forms. Let's look up the different forms. It's just crazy. The medical field is trash. The DSM's been thrown out. Everything that works has been thrown out. It makes you feel crazy. It's like, I was not a very smart woman, but I sure is smarter than my doctor. Like, seriously. It's like, if it wasn't for Jordan, I might not even be in my right frame of mind. It's because of him that I didn't feel alone 4 years ago when this shit started to pop off. Thank God for these doctors that have stood up and did the right things. They will be remembered in history. Best believe it. It sucks that I have to use like a whole nother search engine to find truth because Google lies so bad. It's just... Ugh. Oh, wow. Only 2% of transgender patients have even had to undergo any conversion therapy. Less than 2%. So I love how all of y'all are saying, oh, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad, but ain't none of y'all ever even fucking experienced it. Y'all going off of word of mouth. Lies. Less than 2%. It said a survey in 2018 said that they had been offered. It says about 5% of 108,000 people in the UK surveyed and had been offered some form of conversion therapy, while only 2% had actually undergone it. More than half of those who received the therapy said that it had been conducted by a faith group. You think faith groups are out here giving brain surgery? Bitch, bye! Y'all. So essentially, church groups would come in and say, you need to hear the word of the Lord. He doesn't want you sinning and being gay, and he wants you to be comfortable as your girl self that you are. And that's too much for y'all? This is conversion therapy. I just want to be clear. That's what we're talking about. The word of the Lord is so painful. I get your resistance, bitch. I get it. But it's crazy. Yeah. Anyways, it's just crazy. Some religious groups oppose any ban on conversion therapy and warn that it would infringe on traditional religious teachings, including the belief that sex outside of a heterosexual marriage is sinful. I agree. Because it is. just crazy. I love how only 2% of the damn population has even had some form of it. Let's see. So So they would often be subjected to the presentation of opposite sex erotic images. So I'm a girl and I'm into girls, and my parents send me to a treatment facility to get conversion therapy. And the therapist there show me pictures of men genitalia. That's too much for y'all? Like, really? That's abuse? With the objective of strengthening heterosexual feelings. Now, I don't know if I agree with showing people porn, but, you know, like, I'm just saying that it's not what the left is going to have you believe that conversion therapy is. I understand that in maybe the 1960s, 70s, 80s, when they were first getting started on this journey, I understand they were doing brain surgeries and electrically shocking people and doing shit they shouldn't have been doing. But that's that period of time that I was talking about when the mental hospitals were out of control and it was just a bunch of guinea pigs. And we're going to look back on this transgenderism issue in 20 years and it's going to be the same type of thing. We're going to be like, yeah, we went off the rails in the 1940s in the mental hospitals. And then in the 2020s, we went off the rails again, mutilating children for $1 billion industry. The medical field has been trial and error. You know, we didn't just evolve and know what to do. There's been a lot of medical malpractice in the name of research, and that's really sad to think about, but it happens every day, and this is one of those things. We're going to be seeing the consequences of these actions for decades. People's lives are being destroyed. Children are being harmed. This is real child abuse. So it says some of the other conversion therapies that these people would be subjected to, besides naked pictures of the opposite sex. I'm sure some men would love that. Another method used was to convert sensitization method. Sensitization method. There you go. Sensitization method, which involves instructing patients to imagine vomiting or receiving electrical shocks. So this involves instructing patients to imagine vomiting or receiving electrical shocks. So there's a specialist. He writes that behavioral conditioning studies tend to decrease homosexual feelings and do not increase heterosexual feelings. Now, who was this? Heidelman writes that behavioral conditioning studies tend to decrease homosexual feelings, but do not increase heterosexual feelings. So the naked pictures don't work. Other methods of therapy, in addition to electric shock, includes ice bath, freezing, burning coals, and hard labor. Who thought this was a good idea? What is this, a mental hospital or a prison camp? Like, what the fuck? I agree with you. I see both sides. It's fucking crazy. But that was early on. That was in the 1950s, bro. That period of time I keep talking about. Sorry. It's talking about the Cold War. So it says, this therapy, the style of aversion therapy was developed in Czechoslovakia between 1950 and 1962, and in the British Commonwealth from 1961 to the mid-70s. That period of time, all the mental hospitals, I told y'all. Wow. So it was illegal to be homosexual back in the day, y'all. So this therapy was actually creative and affected by 1961 and recommended to decriminalize homosexuality. What? Some men in the United Kingdom were offered the choice between prison and undergoing aversion therapy. It was also offered to a few British women. Wow. So sad. I mean, homosexuality is a sin. Having sex outside of marriage is a sin. We are all sinners. I feel like people should be able to do what the fuck they want to do when they are of age. See, that's the thing. We're talking about children. We're not talking about grown-ass men that want to be gay. If you want to be gay, honey, go be gay. Good luck to you. I don't care, when I see married couples that are gay and stuff, good for you. At least you found your soulmate. That's how I feel about it. But we're not talking about, definitely sad. Definitely wrong. Imagine not being able to love the person you love. I've had a girlfriend. I had a girlfriend for 3 years. I've had multiple girlfriends. I've had my days where I sinned. We're talking about children. So there was a behavioralist in the 70s who advocated for electric shock of homosexuals and inducing drugs into their system, like getting them high on drugs. He wrote that this type of therapy was successful in nearly 50% of cases. I don't know if I believe that. His name was Haynes Ensick. Yeah, I agree. So there was a different doctor that was opposed to this. Thatchell said that the therapy promoted by Ensick was a form of torture. I agree. Thatchell denounced Ensick's forms of behavioral therapy as inducing depression, suicide among gay men who were subjected to it. Oh my God, I got chill bumps. It's just so fucking sad. It's just so fucking sad. It has to be hard. I get it. I can't imagine being attracted that hard. Like I'm into men. I know that now. When I had a girlfriend, it was just, killing time. So, but I couldn't imagine wanting to be with someone and not being able to, because society won't let you. And then you're prosecuted for that, essentially. Emotionally, spiritually. You're at war with the world because they're telling you you're mentally ill and you just love who you love. It's got to be hard. I see both sides. In the 40s and 50s, a U.S. neurologist, Walter Freeman, popularized the ice pick lobotomy as a treatment. That fucking period of time! The mental hospitals were wild, y'all. Literally between the 1930s and the 60s, your worst fear was to end up in a fucking mental ward. Because you don't know what would happen to you. They were doing all kinds of shit to people all over the world in these facilities. That's part of the reason they were defunded and shut down. Okay? Sketchy ass shit was taking place. People were being harmed. People were being sexually abused. People were being abused physically. People were being starved to death. We definitely need to do a deep dive on mental institutions between the 1930s and 60s because it's wild. So it says this neurologist, Walter Freeman, popularized the ice pick lobotomy as treatment for homosexuality. He personally performed as almost 3,400 lobotomy surgeries in 23 states, of which 2,500 he used his ice pick procedure, despite the fact that he had no formal surgical training. Okay, let's talk about what a lobotomy is. Ain't that where they go through the eye with the ice pick and they I don't even know if I know how to spell it. Lobot. Oh, there it is. Oh God, I'm on it today, bitch. Yes, they go through the eye. Ah! Bro. So what they would do is they'd take an ice pick straight through the freaking eye into the frontal. What is that? So it says a surgical procedure that involves drilling a hole in the skull and severing the connection in the brain, typically between the frontal lobe and the thalamus. Y'all, this is torture. This is what I don't agree with. This is crazy. I agree. This part of conversion therapy should be outlawed. Absolutely. But once again, it's an onion with many layers and many different forms of therapy. And God, this is horrible. The procedure was popular in the mid-20th century. God, I said the 30s. It goes back farther. Tens of thousands of people underwent lobotomies. The Dr. Walter Freeman is considered a pioneer of lobotomy and used portraits of patients before and after the procedure to support his claims. Bitch, how does them looking different make them different? It doesn't. They just physically look different because you done fucked them up. You done ice picked them in the face. Trial and error. Trial and error. Whoo, honey. They go in and up. What does a lobotomy do to a person? I'm sure it made some of them mentally retarded. I mean, you're stabbing the brain. A lobotomy is a surgical procedure that severs the nerve connections between the frontal lobe and other parts of the brain. The intended effect of the lobotomy was to reduce agitation and tension. Yeah, why? By turning them into a fucking vegetable. They don't even have the will to live. Patients often experienced apathy, social disinhibition, and a decreased ability to feel emotions. You think? Patients often had a reduced ability to concentrate and restrict intellectual range. Patients could experience bleeding in the brain, infection, epilepsy, dementia, and other serious health risks. Jesus Christ. Lobotomies were developed in the late 1900s, the earliest 20th century, as a part of mental conditions. It's treatment for mental health conditions like schizophrenia, manic depression, and mania. Jesus Christ. The procedure was most popularized in the 40s, but fell out of favor due to negative press and the growing ability of antidepressants and antipsychotics. Today, lobotomies are banned in many countries and no longer performed in the United States. Thank God. Whoa, what a dark piece of freaking history. That's depressing. Thank God I didn't live back then. All my mental health problems, they would have freaking ice picked me in a minute. I would have been the first in line to get ice picked. Whew, how scary. So in West Germany, a type of brain surgery usually involved the destruction of the ventromedial nucleus of the hypothalamus was done to some homosexual men during the 1960s and 70s. The practice was criticized by sexologist Volkmar somebody. What in the hell? I'm hot. It's getting hot. Sorry. Surgical castration of the homosexual man was widespread in Europe in the first half of the 20th century. SS leader Himmler ordered homosexual men to be sent to concentration camps because he did not consider a time-limited prison sentence was sufficient to eliminate homosexuality. That's so sad. And you know it was one of those things where your neighbor could say, oh yeah, I saw them kissing, and then they just come pick your ass up and throw you in the fucking camp. They didn't have policy and procedure and a court of law back then. A lot of countries, damn, are like that. In the Middle East, somebody say you stole, you might be missing a hand. They don't have, you know, and hell, we're becoming essentially third world bullshit because, hell, I'm getting locked up every week for crimes I didn't fucking commit. So that tells you where we're at. Although theoretically, voluntarily, some homosexuals were subjected to severe pressure and coercion to agree to castration. There was no age limit. Some boys as young as 16 were castrated. Those who agreed to the castration after a paragraph 175 conviction were exempted from being transferred to a concentration camp after completing their legal sentence. Some castration camp prisoners were also subjected to castration. An estimated 400 to 800 men were castrated. Jesus Christ. So sad. What year was that? That didn't even give me a year. Y'all just throwing shit at me and y'all didn't even tell me what year it was. The early 20th century in Germany. Endocrinologist Carl attempted to change homosexual concentration camp prisoners' sexual orientations by implanting a pellet that released testosterone. Most of the victims, non-consenting prisoners, died shortly thereafter. An unknown number of men were castrated in West Germany, and the chemical castration was used in other Western countries, notably against Alan Turing in the United Kingdom. So let's talk about hypnosis, because this is one of the forms of conversion that works. It's not practiced, I don't think, as much as it used to be, but I've known that hypnosis has worked for some people. Let's see if I can even find. So hypnosis is also called hypnotherapy. It is a state of deep relaxation and focused concentration. It's a type of mind-body medicine. A trained and certified hypnotist or a hypnotherapist guides you into this deep state of focus and relaxation with verbal cues, repetition, and imagery. I just want to point out that hypnotherapy is really good for anyone that has repressed memories of trauma or things like if you think that maybe you were victimized as a child sexually or something, hypnosis is really great for that. It can bring up suppressed memories and stuff from your childhood. I don't know, maybe you feel like the first 5 or 6 years that you were alive, your parents lived in a state of fucking chaos, but then they divorced and, and you go and you get hypnotized. Maybe you can remember some of those memories prior, before the divorce. It's that type of thing. It's been proven to work. Suppressed memories are a huge thing for people. It's a subconscious thing. We carry around memories that we can't remember. But sometimes with these trained professionals, we can dig those memories out of the back of our minds. Now, I've been introduced to hypnosis before. I did not relate well to it. I'm not a very calm person. I'm a high-strung. Bitch, meditate. When? I'll meditate when my mind finally cuts off. How about that? But for some people, it works, hypnosis. So let's talk about it. It was used in conversion therapy since the 19th century, Brooke. So there was a study done in the 60s by a Canadian psychiatrist, Peter Roper, published a study of treating 15 different homosexual men with hypnosis. Allegedly, 8 showed improvement. 4 showed mild improvements, and 3 showed no improvement. And this was just from hypnosis. He concluded that hypnosis may well produce more satisfactory results than those obtainable by other means. And that's depending on the hypnotic susceptibility of the subjects. That's what I was saying. You have to be the type of person that's willing, that's wanting, that's accepting. And it seems like that it's worked in the past. And I'm surprised Wikipedia even threw that in there. Thank you for being honest about something. So let's talk about psychoanalysis. I don't even know what that is. We got to figure out what that is. Oh, okay. This is regular therapy. This is like talk therapy. This is what works. So psychoanalysis is a type of therapy that helps people understand how their past experience shape their present, what I tell you, and how to deal with the resulting influences on their lives. It is based on the idea that people have unconscious thoughts, feelings, and memories that can affect their current mood and behavior. Psychoanalysts can help people understand themselves better, make better choices in life, heal from past and present traumas, improve their relationships, find relief from depression, anxiety, and other problems, figure out issues at work, with friends, family, finances, addictions, and other personal problems. This is therapy. That's too much for you fuckers to sit down and talk about your problems? You'd rather just go chop your penis off? Make it make sense. Conversion therapy's bad. I don't want to talk about my problems. I want instant gratification and $120,000 sex change. So, that is psychoanalysis, Brooke. So it says, this Heidelman writes that the psycho treatment of homosexuality is exemplified by the work of Irvin Bieber, a psychoanalytic study of male homosexuals. They advocated long-term therapy aimed at resolving the unconscious childhood conflicts that they considered responsible for homosexuality. Now, I don't know if people are born gay. I don't know if it's because of something that happened to them. I know personally, most of the people that I've met, men that were gay, were victimized as children. Now, that's been what they've told me. I do think that little boys being brutalized is an epidemic that is not talked about enough. We know that these children never come forward. They don't speak of the abuse again, and it's really sad that these boys, they're being victimized and not being helped. It's an epidemic. It's sad. Look at the teachers, okay? Look at the teachers that are going to jail for messing with children. It happens every day. Every week, we see multiple stories of another teacher. I don't know if it has anything to do. I do think, I think it's a mix of both. I think maybe some men are born and they are attracted to other men. And I think that a large group of them were victimized as children and it absolutely switched something in them. This is how these things work. Now, these doctors were trying to say, I don't know if they're saying that it's all cases, but that's how I read it. And I don't agree with that. I don't agree that all men are the same. I think that it is a case-by-case situation. I do agree that the childhood conflicts need to be taken care of at the source. You have to take care of the root cause to fix anything. Now, do they need to be fixed or do they need to just be left alone and go live their lives and be gay? I think we need to leave them alone and let them go be gay. But once again, we're talking about this in the context of children. So that's a whole different ballgame. It's a whole different ballgame. So it says they reported So it says they reported a 27% success rate for a long-term therapy, but only 18% of the patients in whom were considered for the treatment successfully had been exclusively homosexual to begin with, while 50% had been bisexual. So not all of the men were actually gay that they did the study on, which is probably imperative that you get gay men next time. So let's see here. So they're questioning whether therapy works long term to keep men from being gay. I don't know if, I think that, in the back then, y'all, when traditional marriage was a thing and like, that's what your parents had you and they wanted you to graduate and find you a husband or a wife and settle down. If you didn't do that, you were blacklisted from the family. You were an outcast. They'd make you go to fucking conversion therapy. They'd send you away, treat you like shit because you was gay. I don't agree with that. That was wrong. but that's what they're talking about. The long-term effects of therapy. It doesn't seem to work. 27%, that's not a good success rate. Maybe we just need to leave the gay men alone and let the gay men be gay. They'd be happy if you just leave them alone. So let's talk about reparative. I hope that's how you say that. Reparative therapy. Hold on. This is another layer. I didn't spell that right. Reparative. I can't fucking speak, y'all. Can somebody teach me English, please? How to say? No. Reparative, I said it right. So it's the term reparative therapy has been used for conversion therapy generally, but according... Yeah, oh, shit. It properly refers to a specific kind of therapy associated with psychologists Elizabeth Moberly and Joseph Nicholas. It doesn't tell me what it is. It just says it says the term reparative refers to this guy's program. The same-sex attraction is a person's unconscious attempt to self-repair feelings of inferiority. It doesn't tell me what it is, though. After California banned conversion practices, this doctor argued that reparative therapy didn't attempt to directly change sexual orientation, but instead encourage exploration into its underlying causes, which he believed was often childhood trauma. Let me figure out what the hell they would do in this therapy. Were we ice picking somebody else? Like, seriously. So this is by the doctor. I went straight to the source, the one that the Wikipedia page, Nicholas or something. He wrote this in 92. Hold on. American Psychological Association. Okay. Nicholas J. 91. Reparative therapy of male homosexuality. A clinical approach. So it says reparative psychotherapy is based on a developmental view that the homosexual condition is the result of an incomplete gender identity development arising when there is a conflict and subsequent distancing from the father. Whoo, honey, now we doing research. Many homosexuals are attracted to other men and their maleness because they are striving to complete their own gender identification. This view helps to better understand the nature of the homosexual man's struggle and offers to help the non-gay homosexual, that is, one who is unhappy with his sexual orientation. The model described here, however, fits many, perhaps the majority of male homosexuals who come in for treatment. And it may be the most common homosexual developmental pattern ever. Reparative therapy is not a cure in the sense of erasing all homosexual feelings. It is, however, a successful treatment strengthening masculinity identification. For non-gay homosexuals who want to change, reparative psychotherapy can help them explore the source of their problem. So this was what I assumed. Children who have been victimized, they have trauma, and they are gay because of that trauma. This guy said that these men are willing participants in their recovery. They come in wanting to no longer be homosexual. They come in with the knowledge that it's because of a father or a male figure in their life lacking that they have ended up with homosexual feelings. It seems like this program was working for a lot of people, but this guy is another doctor that was swept under the rug, and his practices and the stuff that he was going for, the people that he was helping, it didn't align with their propaganda, with what they wanted to do. This is crazy. I didn't know anything about this stuff. Oh, but it's all bad, right? That's great that they can put two and two together. It's crazy. Marriage therapy is another onion layer of conversion therapy. Previous editions of the World Health Organization's ICD include sexual relationship disorder in which a person's sexual orientation or gender identity makes it difficult for them to maintain a relationship with a sexual partner. The belief is that their sexual orientation has caused problems in their relationship and may lead to some people turning to a marriage therapist for help to change their sexual orientation. Why is that bad? Like, I don't understand why that would be bad. They just be making up shit, don't they? Conversion therapy's bad. Gender exploratory therapy. GET, G-E-T, is a form of conversion therapy characterized by requiring mandatory extended talk therapy. What did I say? Attempting to find pathological roots for gender dysphoria while simultaneously delaying social and medical transition and viewing it as a last resort. So this is why they tell you that conversion therapy is bad. Because right here, they're saying that talk therapy works. This is why the left says that it's bad. Because it doesn't align with making money. It says right here, delaying social and medical transitioning and viewing it as a last resort. Practitioners of GET often view medical transitioning as a last resort and propose their patients' dysphoria is caused by factors such as homophobia, social contagion, sexual trauma, and autism. Some practitioners of GET avoid using their patient's chosen name and pronouns while questioning their identification. It doesn't align with the delusion. You can't float down denial if the doctor's telling you you are a boy when you in fact are a boy, but you want to claim that you're a girl. You see what I'm saying? This is why they view conversion therapy as bad. Because it doesn't align with their delusion. States that have banned gender-affirming care for minors in the United States have called expert witnesses to argue that exploratory therapy should be the alternative treatment. What did I say? Talk therapy. So there's a whole organization, it's called the Gender Exploratory Therapy Association, the GETA, asserts that psychological approaches should be the first in line for treatment for all cases of gender dysmorphia. That medical interventions for transgender youth are, quote, experimental and should be avoided. And they call it, quote, risky. So sad. So fucking sad. So that's conversion therapy. It's so bad, right? They outlawed the ice picking, okay? Just to be clear. So conversion therapy is talk therapy. It's sitting down, addressing your problems, talking about your childhood, addressing the shit that we need to address. Everybody, I don't give a hell. I don't give a hell who you are. You have to address these things in life. If you do not, you are going to be carrying around fucking baggage and pulling everybody down with you, baby, and your life is never going to be happy because you got unresolved trauma. That's how that works, unfortunately. So even though Wikipedia said all of that, it says down here, conversion therapy can cause significant long-term psychological harm. Bull, bitch. We just read the studies. You got to read through the bullshit. Get this. Guess how much conversion therapy was costing? So a 2022 study estimated that conversion therapy of youth in the United States cost around $650 million annually, with an additional $9.5 billion in associated costs such as increased suicide and substance use. Youth who undergo conversion therapy from a religious provider, let's see, but how much is so I don't trust Wikipedia at all. They're trying to say that because of conversion therapy, it's costing $9 billion annually. I don't believe that. We're not even doing therapy anymore. We're giving kids hormones. So what the hell are they talking about? Imagine saying that sitting down and talking about your problems is torture. People are so stupid. Seriously. I do think that that conversion therapy from the 40s and 50s is completely different than what it is today. But therapy works without a doubt if you're open and susceptible. Like if you want to change, if you want to talk about your problems. I don't agree with no fucking ice picking. That's wild. That was another period of time that that people talk about, and we're going to be talking about this period of time with children getting harmed and brainwashed, and I mean, the Department of Education is problematic. The teachers that we have in schools nowadays, I don't think it's that bad in the South, but still and yet, you see it. Yeah. There is no room for pride flags in schools. There is no room for transgender flags in schools. That is not what a school is for. Those things need to be talked about after the age of 18. Not while you're in 5th grade. It's just crazy that we've allowed this to happen. And I say we because I used to be on the left. But this shit is outrageous. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It will go down in history as one of the medical mispractice of the century. I don't think people quite understand how many people are being harmed by these hormones. And speaking of which, let's talk about if they actually sterilize you. I'll give you some facts. it's going to be just like those crazy ass mental hospitals. We're going to look at this and say, what the hell were we thinking? What were they thinking back then? You know, you're going to be, your great great granddaughter going to be like, Grandma, who did you vote for back then? Were you alive? Like, it's going to be one of those things like, y'all were harming children, making billions of dollars off the harming of children and brainwashing and indoctrinating children. You had teachers that were openly handing out porn in schools. Yeah. I'm trying to find this study that I found through the Heritage Foundation like 2 weeks ago. I don't know if this is it. Oh my God. Listen to this. This is not it, but still. Extending over 30 years and conducted in Sweden, a study was done. 10 to 15 years after the surgical reassignment surgery, the suicide rate of those who had undergone surgery, sex reassignment surgery, rose to 20 times of that of comparable peers. How can I put this into words? If you've ever healed from something, okay, imagine you're a kid and all of your friends are on this train and it's the cool thing to do to get on hormones and do a sex change, and by the time you're 25, you have a full reassignment, reconstructive surgery, and you think that this is going to be your cure-all and that you're going to be happy and this is going to bring you so much happiness. But by 30, you realize that you have fucked up majorly and there's no coming back from this. And studies show that if you have any underlying mental health conditions, they're going to get worse. Not only that, your suicide rate is going to skyrocket. If you've ever healed from something, you know how carrying around baggage with open wounds is not good for your life. You might try to cover up that pain with drugs or alcohol, thinking that's going to make you happy in the moment. But if you've ever healed from anything, then you recognize that the only thing that makes you happy is healing from shit. That's the only thing that's going to work. And it's the same thing with transgenderism, body dysmorphia. These people are being told that if they do this, these medical procedures, that they'll get happier. But studies show time and time again that that's not the case. And matter of fact, their underlying fucking causes have not been addressed. It's just sickening what the medical field has become. I'm looking for a research paper I can't find from 2 weeks ago. So this is from the National Library of Medicine. When was this written? June of 22. What is a pulmonary embolism? Yo, I'm reading this. Hold on. It says a total of 28 reported ADRs were identified. 6 concerned transgender men and 22 transgender women. In transgender men taking testosterone, all reported ADRs were cardiovascular events with pulmonary embolisms in 50% of the cases. I's not a very smart woman, but that sounds like heart problems, right? Right? Am I reading that right? Embolism. I don't fucking know. Yeah, no. Pulmonary embolism, PE, is a blockage in the lungs and arteries caused by a blood clot. 50% of cases. Once again, this is from who? The National Library of Medicine. People we trust. This is unbelievable. What is an ADR? Hold on. Adverse drug reactions. Okay, so not only do they sterilize you, but they can cause you to have 50% of these cases that they did this study on. 50% of them had cardiovascular events. Hello? You want another vaccine? Median time to onset was 34 months. I don't know all these medical terms, y'all, but it don't sound good. I gotta look up more shit. I'm sorry, I'm dumb. I didn't go to medical school, sorry. What is all this shit? Alright. Focus. Androgenins. Androgenins? Okay, so a substance that keeps androgenins, male sex hormones, from binding to proteins called androgen receptors, which are found in normal prostate cells, some prostate cancer cells, and cells of some other tissues. Preventing this binding blocks the effects of these hormones in the body. So this is one of the blocks testosterone's effects. So this would be one of the, is this one of the medicines that they give to teens? Hold on. For gender affirming care. Gender affirm care. Yes, this is it. It's androgenins. It's known as testosterone blockers, are used for gender-affirming care to block testosterone. This shit's dangerous. Hello? Why are we giving this to anybody, much less children? Decreased muscle mass, thinning, and slowed growth of facial hair and body hair. Fewer erections, decreased ejaculation, decreased libido, softer, less oily skin, smaller body parts, more body fat. Oh my God, here's a whole fucking list. Alright, let's see what these motherfuckers are. Propeca, finasteride, Lord have mercy. I'm in the wrong. This is not my area of expertise. I don't know shit about no medical shit. Propentica. Propeca? Propentica? finasteride. Nope, we're going to go gender affirming care. What does this do? It's sometimes used in gender affirming care for transgender women to reduce body and facial hair and to decrease the concentration of DHT in the body. So this medication is an anti-androgen that blocks the effects of testosterone, which can lead to decreased erectile function and allow estrogen to develop female secondary sex characteristics. What in the genetically modified is fucking going on? I's not a very smart woman, but I just don't feel like we should have tried this shit on kids. I mean, if we gonna try this shit, we need to try it on adults. Why are we doing this on kids? This has never been done before. These are not medications that are simple medications. These are dangerous medications. Y'all know how I feel about the medical field and children being given pills, but that's because I was given pills when I was a child. I don't remember half of my childhood. Between the abuse and the drugs, shit just disappeared. And that's really sad. And when you are giving children drugs like this, it's these side effects, y'all. All right, let's go back. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's look up Adadart. Adadart. That medication was made to treat symptoms of an enlarged prostate. So why are they using it for gender affirming care? Yes, Avodart dutasteride is sometimes used as part of a gender affirming care. Hormone therapy for transgender women. It's a testosterone blocker that reduces the production of DHT, a stronger form of testosterone in the body. Hold on one second. I don't want to hear from you. I want to hear I'm looking for the long-term side effects of this medication. Long-term effects. Cardiovascular risk, bone health, infertility problems, cancer, blood clots. Gallstones, weight gain, acne, elevated liver enzymes, high concentration of red blood cells, hair loss, balding. Oh, here's National Institute of Medicine. They'll tell us the truth. The long-term effects of these medications. Approximately 1.5 million people in the United States currently identify as transgender. The use of gender-affirming hormone therapy is integral to routine clinical care of transgender individuals, yet our understanding of the effects of this therapy is limited. There are reasons to believe that gender-affirming hormone therapy may have important effects on cardiovascular risk and bone health in transgender individuals. The purpose of this review article is to summarize the evidence for the cardiovascular effects, including coronary artery disease, hypertension, and stroke, as well as the effects of bone metabolism, associated with gender-affirming hormone therapy in both transgender men and transgender women. Oh, God. approximately 1.5 million adults in the United States, 0.6 of the population in 2016 identified as transgender, with 99.5% of these individuals younger than 65 years of age. Interesting. Transgender persons are a diverse group whose gender identity differs from the sexual assigned at birth. Some transgender persons undergo medical treatment which include gender-affirming hormone therapy, GAHT, and or surgery to align with their physical characteristics with their gender identity to address gender dysmorphia. The GAHT is provided in order to induce feminization or masculization changes. The prevalence of gender population in the United States has been increasing. This is likely due to the fact that transgender individuals are more likely to identify as such in demographic surveys. Understanding the terminology used to describe transgender individuals and the commonly used hormone therapies, awareness of the potential side effects of GAHT is needed to make informed decisions and individualize GAHT. Okay. Okay, retrospective studies, prospective studies, observational studies, systematic reviews, meta-analytics, and randomized trials were all included when applicable in this study. A total of 150 articles were screened, 53 articles were retained based on the outcomes of a related review. Transgender women. All right, cardiovascular health with transgender women. And it's called ischemic heart disease. 2 early observable studies reported that the crude incidence of myocardial infarction and mortality related to myocardial infractions in transgender women receiving the GAHT were not different from sex assigned at birth men. I'm so confused. I'm sorry. This is complex. Oh, God, my brain. I love studies. It's literally my favorite. If you know, you know. I'm a statistics whore. But some of them be complex, y'all. And it makes my brain hurt. Okay, it says, analyze the data from a 2015 Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance Survey, the BRFSS, and found that transgender women on GAHT had a higher risk of myocardial infarction than sex-assigned at birth women. .9, 95%, CI 1.6 to 5.3. I don't know what that means. But it says, but this risk was not higher than in sex assigned at birth men. Similar results found in retrospective. So it says transgender women receiving the GAHT had higher risk of ischemic heart disease than sex assigned at birth women. Jesus. So pretty much, if you're taking these fucking hormones, you have a higher chance of ischemic heart disease and myocardial infarction. Jesus. We're getting there. Wow. A case control study showed that a higher prevalence of myocardial infarction in transgender women who had received GAHT for an average of 7.7 years compared with sex assigned at birth women. What is this? 18.7 out of every 1,000 cases. So out of every 1,000 people, 18.7 of them ended up with heart problems, with the prevalence of myocardial infarction similar to sex assigned at birth men. Oh, Lord. Okay. This is complex as shit. I hope I'm saying this right. Transgender women were found to have a higher mortality rate due to its ischemic heart disease than adjusted expected mortality for the general population. In a retrospective cohort study, transgender women treated with ethanol, estriol had a particularly high event rate with a 3-fold increased risk of cardiovascular mortality compared with former users or never users. Here, I'll show you what it says, because I can't say it right. Threefold increased risk of cardiovascular. Wow. Let's talk about cerebrovascular disease. Jesus Christ. Y'all couldn't just call it C disease. What does that do? We got to figure out what the hell that is first. Sorry. CERE. Oh, it's probably something to do with the brain. Cerebral. CBROV. Cerebral vascular disease. Is that the heart or the brain? The brain. I was right. All right. Cerebral vascular disease includes a variety of medical conditions that affect the blood vessels of the brain. Oh, bitch, you ain't got blood flowing. You ain't breathing, thinking, or doing shit. Arteries supplying oxygen and nutrients to the brain are often damaged or deformed in these disorders. You gonna fucking suffocate? It's a neurological disease. It's your brain. How fucking horrible. All right. I'm going to call it C disease. C disease in transgender women receiving the GAHT was found to be similar to sex assigned at birth men and to the general population in 2 early retrospective observable studies. In a retrospective cohort study of 966 transgender women receiving the GAHT, the mortality related to C disease in transgender women was not different from the general population. Then why are y'all talking about it? In a case control study of 214 transgender women on GAHT, the prevalence of stroke in transgender women was, however, higher than that in assigned at birth men. In contrast, a subsequent retrospective cohort study found that the risk of stroke in transgender women receiving GAHT was higher than sex assigned at birth women, but similar to that of sex assigned at birth men. In the subgroup analysis, transgender women who had received GAHT for longer than 6 years had higher risk of ischemic stroke than both sex assigned at birth men and sex assigned at birth women, indicating increased risk of stroke with prolonged exposure to hormone therapy. A similar high risk of ischemic stroke in transgender women on GAHT compared with both sex assigned at birth men and sex assigned at birth women was shown in another retrospective cohort study. Okay, overall, the available data for C disease are equivocal. Jesus Christ! Why you give me the gift of freaking caring, but you don't give me the gift of knowing? You know, I can't spell, I can't read. What was this again? Equivocal. Having two or more possible meanings. Ambiguous. Uncertain. Alright, my head. Okay, so it's saying overall the available data for C disease is uncertain. They don't know. However, there seems to be an increased long-term risk of stroke in transgender women that were on GAHT compared to both sexes assigned at birth, men and women. But that's not all, bitch. There's more. Let's figure out what the hell this disease is. Cardiometabolic risk factors. That's heart problems. Okay, we ain't gonna look that up. A meta-analysis of 29 studies that included 3,200 transgender women showed no significant differences in total cholesterol, blah, 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 blah. No changes in this. So it messes with your TC, TG, LDL, C increased. So it does, it's not making sense, I'm sorry. The study also demonstrated alteration in glycoinsulinemic profile in transgender women. Oh, so women that were already having insulin problems are having worse insulin problems. A higher prevalence of diabetes was observed in transgender women receiving estrogen compared to both sex assigned at birth, men and women. While data regarding insulin resistance in transgender patients is limited, a systematic review of 26 studies showed that in transgender women feminizing hormone therapy, that estradiol decreases lean mass, increases fat mass, and may worsen insulin resistance. Y'all, there's so many different damn side effects, and like, it's just a lot. What is dyslipid anemia? Blood pressure issues. Two early observable studies showed increased risk of VTE and pulmonary embolism in transgender women. One study showed that a 45-fold increase in risk compared to sex assigned at birth men, while another showed a 20-fold increase in risk compared to general populations. All cases of VTE occurred in patients using oral estriol, it was oral hormones. So it says, similarly, a retrospect cohort study of 2,800 transgender women found a higher risk of VTE in transgender women receiving GAHT compared to sex assigned at birth men. With the highest risk seen with larger exposure to hormone therapy. So the longer you're on it, the more fucked up and more health problems you're going to have. In a recently published retrospective observational story, I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit. These words. There was another study with 6,700 transgender persons. They had higher incidences of VTE was seen in transgender women that received the GAHT compared with both sex assigned men and birth women. In summary, the data for VTE in transgender women are consistent and show an increased risk of VTE and pulmonary embolism in transgender women compared to both sex-assigned birth men and women. Now that was transgender women. This is going to be transgender men. And I'm just going to go ahead and say that a lot of these studies were similar, the men and the women. It caused heart problems, myocardial, whatever that was called. Actually not. It says multiple observational studies have not found an increased risk of myocardial infraction or whatever, or increased mortality related to myocardial infraction in transgender men receiving GAHT. That's weird. So why is it happening to just transgender women? That is so weird. That's why you don't fuck with science, honey. Y'all out here playing with drugs like it's a game. So, actually, in transgender men, they're not having the Islamic heart disease and the C disease like the women were. Hold on. What the fuck, Wikipedia? Make up your mind. One cross-sectional study using the population-based data from 2014 to 2017 found that transgender men had a fourfold and twofold increase of myocardial infarction compared with sex-assigned birth at women and sex-assigned birth at men. Information regarding specific hormone therapy was not provided in this study, making it difficult to assess the factors related to the increased risk. The risk and prevalence of ischemic stroke in transgender men on GAHT were also shown to be similar to those of sex-assigned birth men and women. In summary, while data is scarce and not consistent, there seems to be no risk of cardiovascular disease, heart disease, or stroke in transgender men on hormone therapy. So it's just women, which is still scary. So it says the data on the risk for diabetes in transgender men are mixed. A case control study showed increased prevalence of diabetes in transgender men receiving GAHT compared with sex-assigned birth women, but it was not different from sex-assigned birth men. Controversially, the HOMAIR in transgender men was not different from the baseline after 1 year and 2 years of GAHT in a prospective observational study. I don't know what that is, but I'm assuming it's something. So it says in summary, the GAHT seems to increase the LDLC, TGL, and decrease the HDLC in transgender men. Some studies indicate that these changes are more pronounced after 2 years of therapy. All right, what the hell is a LDL? Oh, something to do with the cholesterol. Low density, low lipoprotein cholesterol. It's bad cholesterol. So this shit is messing with men's cholesterol? What did it say? Damn it. Yes, it's raising the cholesterol. Now, what is the HDL? HDL. See, they just put shit in there, and you don't know. The HDLC is the good cholesterol. So it's actually, it says in summary, the LDL seems to increase, that's the bad cholesterol, and the good cholesterol decreases in transgender men, and in some studies indicate these changes are more pronounced after 2 years of receiving hormone treatment. Blood pressure. Lord, my head. All right. I'm going to skim this because these medical terms are making my whole body hurt. This is not my area of expertise. I hate it. But I think it's important to know it because they just lie. In summary, data on blood pressure and changes in transgender men on GAHT remain controversial and is thus difficult to draw definite conclusions. So they don't know if it summarizes the effect of GAHT on the cardiovascular risk and different cardiometabolic parameters in transgender men and women. There's not even been studies done to see if these are causing heart problems and skeletal health problems. A recent study evaluating the BMD in pre-pubertal transgender youth shows decreased BMD in the transgender group compared to their sex-assigned birth counterparts. What is BMD? Is that bone density? I don't freaking know. BMD. Bone mineral density. You fucking think? You're pumping them full of hormones and they're not growing. They're not developing. You're stunning their growth. Of course their bone density is not good. Duh. What did you think was going to happen? Like, common sense really ain't that common no more, is it? So essentially, it affects the bone density The T-score represents the number of standard divisions above or below the average bone density of a young, healthy Caucasian sex-assigned at birth woman. The T-score establishes fracture risk and the need for further treatment and lifestyle modifications, suggesting the need for BMD surveillance at an even earlier stage. There are limited data on the long-term risk of the GAHT on skeletal health. Most of the studies in transgender individuals have been cross-sectional or retrospective, with very few perspective or longitude studies and data prior to 2019. There was 2 studies done, one in 2017 and it was updated in 2019. A single study has been performed using trabecular bone score in transgender individuals. So it says, who is revving their engine? Do y'all hear that? One idiot. A single study. So difficult. So it says a meta-analyst examined 13 studies published from 1980 to 2015. The outcomes of interest were bone mineral density and the incidence of fractures. 392 transgender women and 247 transgender men were identified. The update in the 2019 systematic review and meta-analysis selected 19 studies published before August of 2018. Well, what did the study show? Okay. So it says, in the both meta-analysis, transgender women showed an increase in bone mineral density in the lumbar region at 12 to 24 months. And the transgender men showed no statistically significant changes in bone mineral density. The femoral neck or total hip. Most transgender men receive IM preparations of testosterone, and some received transdermal or oral androgens. Huh. In summary, the available data shows that transgender women who took GAHT increases bone mineral density and TBS. The transgender men, there was a decrease in TBS, which blah, blah, blah. Okay. So it says transgender women appear to have a higher risk of myocardial infarction than sex assigned at birth women. Sex assigned at birth men, blah, 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 blah. Y'all, this stuff is complex. Okay, so it says the GAHT is associated with increased risk of the VTE in transgender women. Oral estranol is now less commonly prescribed due to this higher risk. Oh, this stuff's giving me a headache. Okay, so here it is, yes. Increased heart, myocardial, stroke, VET in transgender women. God, it's my headache. This stuff is complex. I think that therapy is so important. I wouldn't even be where I was today if it was not for therapy. So it says right here, testosterone therapy can have long-term effects on trans men, including risk of cardiovascular disease, stroke, and high blood pressure. It can also it also comes with the increased risk of psychiatric systems. People with underlying causes, like I was saying, bipolar disorder, mania, anxiety, those things are going to get worse. It's not going to get better. These are not miracle drugs. These are pharmaceutical drugs that have been created in a lab, which is freaky in itself, unnatural. Other side effects include sleep apnea, acne, hyperplasia, high red blood cell, type 2 diabetes, blood clots. What in the medical malpractice? It's just crazy that we're even here discussing this when these types, I was looking more of the long-term effects on children. That is going to be extremely hard to find because we're still living through this. You get what I'm saying? Like, we don't know the long-term effects of these medications in children. We've never been through this before. Just like we've never been through everybody being super exposed and wrapped up in technology. We don't know. I mean, we can assume the psychological impacts of what we're living through currently as far as, having instant gratification at our fingertips with cell phones and technologies and movies and all of these electronics and games and all of this stuff. You can only assume, psychologically speaking, what that does to a person. We're seeing the cracks in society. But we've never actually lived through this before. We don't know the long-term effects. What does this mean for the next 3 generations? Because it definitely means something, and so does these medications. And my prediction is 40 years from now, we're going to look back on this as a freak science experiment, and we're going to say, oh my God, we were so bad. That was so bad. Can you believe we were torturing children, essentially? It's crazy. It's just, I don't understand how people don't see it that way. Like, you literally, I don't get you. I don't get you. How you could say that this is okay. These are children. Children that don't need to be exposed to what they're being exposed to. Cell phones, pride flags, crazy teachers, pornographic books, the internet, dancing all over the damn TikTok. It's not okay. It's not okay. In my opinion, that's the real child abusers. That is, it's going to be crazy in 40 years when we talk about it. But hey, at least I'll look back and be like, I told you, motherfuckers. Like, at least y'all called me crazy. Till children started jumping off of bridges and taking their own lives because they weren't happy in the body that they had transitioned to. It's happening every day. There was a girl in California that jumped out in front of a train. She was taken from her mother because her mother refused to let her become a little boy. And this girl, the Department of Social Services, came in and had the legal right to steal this child from its mother because they had passed laws to do so. In California, if you deny your child gender-affirming care, they consider that abuse. They consider it abuse to not allow your child to mutilate themselves with drugs and hormones and pills and, Lord forbid, a full sex operation. If you refuse to allow your child to get gender-affirming care, the state has the legal right to come in and snatch that child from your custody and charge you with child abuse. Ain't that wild? And it happened. And this mother lost her daughter forever over it. The girl went into a transitioning house. It was like she was living with like a temporary foster family. And she ran away and she jumped in front of a moving train. I mean, it's just horrific to think that it's all the state's fault, but it is. Whoever passed that stupid fucking law needs to be in jail. How dare you say that a parent doesn't have the right to parent? It's literally their job. I don't know where this secret shit comes from in the school system. I read somewhere the other day that in one of them leftist states, maybe New York, California, I don't freaking know, that essentially they were trying to keep the parents out of the school. Essentially, what they were saying was for students to keep secrets from their parents, that they could go to teachers and talk to the teachers about whatever they wanted to. Excuse me, I don't know who the fuck you think you are, but you have no right to overstep your boundaries in that way. If it comes to that child, that parent has every right to know. There should be no secrecy between teachers and parents. Y'all are supposed to be on the same team, worried about the education of that child, what is best for that child. I don't know what the education system has become anymore, but I can assure you that the craziness, the madness, the leftist wokeness, it's spread like wildfire. I see it on my own turf. And I'm in a Republican state in the Bible Belt. Well, it's a swing state now. It used to be a Republican state when I was growing up. It's a swing state now. But still, this is middle America. You know, this is small town, blue collar workers. Like, this is normal traditionalism, Bible Belt. I think that North Carolinians forget this. I think maybe some of you North Carolinians need to move to California. How about that? Because y'all ruining this state, babe. And these children are really who's suffering. But, you know, I'm the problem. I'm just glad I don't have to worry about that. I really don't. I'm still concerned for other people because I see, you know, shit all the time. Just like yesterday, we were at the gas station and I saw two parents, what appeared to be two parents with two toddlers, and they were high as hell. Call me what you want, but you can't say that I was ever out here running around looking like that with children. It's just heartbreaking. I don't have to worry about my children being exposed to crazy stuff like that. They're growing up in good Christian homes with good people that love them and will assure their safety. At least I have that peace of mind. You got parents out here nowadays that are completely complicit in the brainwashing of their own damn child just so they can feel a part of something. How pathetic. I mean, imagine being that damaged and lost in life that you want to become part of the LGBTQ plus just because. Just so you can say that you're a part of something. Like, you couldn't join a book club or something, bitch. Like, you literally want to join one of the most evil causes on earth right now. Like, the top evil cause, other than immigration. The harming of these children is absolutely top priority. The wokeness, the mind pollution, the indoctrination of children, the overstepping boundaries in our education system, you know, all of these problems that we're having, that's absolutely a top priority in this country. It should be. It should be for the continuation of this country to survive. Hello. But also immigration. We have a lot of problems on our home fronts. But I just don't understand how you could be that desperate to be a part of something that you would be complicit in fucking evil. It don't get no more evil, baby. I mean, we have judges and prosecutors and people in the courthouse out here that don't even want to call pedophiles anymore. They say that it puts stigma on their name. They can't live a regular life. Well, how about you don't harm children and you can live a regular life? The whole reason we call them pedophiles is to add that stigma. Bring back shame, guilt, you know? They're trying to completely rewrite history. And they're trying to normalize pedophilia. Absolutely. Fucking 100%. 100%. Look at all the cops that I've been posting. Getting caught with child, you know what? Harming children. It's just, it's on our home front. I do believe that the Sound of Freedom brought more awareness to you know, the missing children in this country. We have hundreds of thousands of missing children in this country. I do believe that that's why certain people have recently been arrested. It's almost like this year is like the pedo year, ain't it? We got P. Diddy getting arrested. We got Mike from Abercrombie and Fitch getting arrested. I've done seen like 5 other people that's been arrested. Sex trafficking operations, okay? They ain't got them all, though. They won't get them all. They'll get a few of them just to make an example like they did with Jeffrey. And then it'll die down again and people can go back to being fucking creeps. Nothing is really done about the problem ever, is it? It almost feels like they put a Band-Aid on it just to kind of appease the public or whatever. They kind of want to just please them, shut them up. You know, everybody was pissed that P. Diddy wasn't arrested immediately. You know, people are like, how is this son of a bitch still out? Everybody knows he's a weirdo. So they got him, and then they got Mike, because they had to, because people were coming forward, making all of these crazy accusations. At that point, when you got people starting to sue people for millions of dollars, it's out in the press, you know what I mean? And they can't keep a lid on it anymore. So at some point, they have to act like they were part of getting this guy. And it's bullshit. Look at our president. For example, how many children has he sniffed during press conferences? If you think for a moment that that is natural, normal, or acceptable behavior to children that are not yours, it's not. It's sick. The evidence is out there, but people don't want to believe it. He's even said shit that's sketchy. I know he ain't in his right mind, but sometimes them people that are out of their mind actually be saying real shit. Like, they be confessing, you know what I mean? Like, so, and what are the chances that our president has 2 children that have completely went off the rails? He had a son that had a laptop, that huge drug problem, hooker problem. And then he had a daughter who lost her diary, where she makes all of these wild claims that her father was inappropriate with her when she was a child and they would shower together. And then this diary was fact-checked and they wrote it off as being fake. And then a year later, we circle back and Ashley Biden herself admits that yes, it was in fact her diary. And they changed that fact-check to yes, real. So we got a president in the White House that likes to sniff and play with children's hairs and shoulders. And then he's got 2 kids, a daughter of which claims that he was inappropriate with her. And then you got a son who's cracked out of his mind, obsessed with sex. Nobody said shit. Let's get him in the White House. Roll out the red carpet. I just don't understand. I hate that I was on drugs during that election. I hate that. I genuinely wonder if Hunter was abused by Joe. Serious. Because there's a reason he's crazy. People don't just wake up and choose to be a porn stripper cokehead, okay? Like addict. It don't happen like that, y'all. More often than not, we've done the numbers. How many strippers were sexually abused? 90%. There's a reason that those girls end up stripping, baby. So, you know, there's a reason and there's numbers behind it and studies. And I'm here to tell you that something happened to Hunter when he was young. And it probably has to do with his fucking father. That's all I'm saying. In my opinion. Wait a second. Who's older? I thought Hunter was older. In my opinion, I thought that Joe messed with Hunter first. And he learned from his mistakes and didn't mess with Ashley as bad. But that's just my assumption. I just have a way of reading people. Let's see who's older. Hunter. He's 54. She's 43. What are the chances, hypothetically, just listen. So they're almost 10 years apart. So that means that by the time Ashley was born, Hunter would have been having horrible behavioral problems if he was in fact getting sexually abused by his father. Hypothetically, I'm speaking from experience. He would have knew by then that if he was to do the same thing to Ashley, that she would get crazy too. So maybe Jill put a stop to it. I don't know. And I'm just telling you, I'm making up this theory because it's more of a likely chance that something like this actually happened than not. And Ashley said herself that when she was little, it's some of her first memories. She remembers being in the shower with her father, and she called it, quote, extremely inappropriate. She did not elaborate, but I don't know. I just know that where there's smoke, there's fire, honey. And we've seen dozens of press conferences with this man overstepping boundaries. He can't help himself. He's not right in the head. And I think that it's karma. I think his behavior has shown who he is. We know who he is. We can see it. There's evidence. There's videos. There's 2 crazy kids that admit some shit went down. It's just crazy that he made it this far and people didn't see this shit. I don't know how you can't see it. I look at him and I see child abuser. It is all over him. It makes my skin crawl. But once again, I have a knack for seeing through people. I can see people, who they are, their character, from a mile away. I don't know. They're almost 10 years apart. Who's to say that he didn't, abuse Hunter like hell? And then when his daughter was born, by that time, Hunter would have been 8, 9, 10 years old. He would have been having extreme behavioral problems. At that point, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what happened, but by the time Ashley was 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, she was showering with her father. And it still bothers her to this day because she talked about it in her diary that was found. So something happened. Creepy. And this man is president. Y'all. And y'all be like, oh, they're not harming children. The president has. His own daughter admitted it. Stop being fucking naive. This is exactly how shit happens and nothing ever gets fixed because we don't talk about it. We just say, oh, yeah, he's a little off. Yeah, he's a little off. He made fucking lampshades out of women's skin. Yeah, he's a little off. What the fuck is wrong with people? God. No amount of evidence will convince a fool, right? I gotta go get some lunch. I am so shaky. Y'all see me shaking? I was trying to put on chapstick. What the hell? Those 2 Excedrin. And then we're gonna get started on this building this afternoon. We're gonna pull everything out. It's so gross in there. I'm gonna have to tie my hair up and put a bonnet on so I don't get cobwebs in my ears and stuff. I'm actually happy to get in there and see what all's in there. It looks like a pile of shit, don't it? I got my truck seat in there from the back. There's so much that I need to pull out. I've been waiting for it to get warm. It's cold. This cold weather hit and I don't know how to act. But we'll do that in a little while. I'm going to go eat some food and try to get my life together. It's day 12. Day 12. I think it's just getting better and better. I just got to focus drinking water because I drink way too much caffeine. Y'all see how much caffeine I drink. That's the problem. That's probably why I'm sweating like a whore in church because the caffeine. But honestly, it's the only thing that makes me feel better. It does. It makes me jittery as hell. But it makes me feel better. But we'll talk in a little while. And I'm going to make me tacos for lunch. So maybe we'll meet up in a little while. I'll show you my tacos.